now that week 5 of the 2023-24 college basketball season is mostly in the books, there are exactly 7 undefeated teams remaining: Arizona, Houston, Baylor, Oklahoma, Clemson, James Madison, and Ole Miss. That's because previously undefeated Colorado State, BYU, TCU, and Princeton all lost this week. And you might remember we actually opened Friday's episode on how BYU and Colorado State are 2 of the biggest surprises in the sport. They responded to our praise by losing games roughly 24 hours later.
We're back.
That was awesome.
We're
BYU
back,
lost at Utah 73-69. Colorado State lost to St. Mary's 64-61. Thanks for making us look smart, fellas. So again, there are now 7 undefeated teams in the country. Arizona, Houston, Baylor are all schools that were expected to be great. Nothing surprising there, or too surprising there. James Madison, rock solid mid-major. I now have, better late than never, I now have the Dukes in the top 25 and 1. They should win the Sun Belt. That leaves us with Oklahoma, Clemson, and Ole Miss, all of which had notable wins this weekend. Oklahoma beat Arkansas 79-70 to improve to 9-0. Clemson beat TCU 74-66 to improve to 9-0. And Ole Miss won at UCF 70-68 to also remain undefeated. Deadleg, all of these teams were outside of the top 45 at KenPom in the preseason. I now, when the top 25 and 1 updates on Monday morning, will have them all in the top 25 and 1. Oklahoma will be 11th. Clemson will be 14th. Ole Miss will be 25th. I apologize for the lengthy open, but now I'll turn it over to you. Take Oklahoma, Clemson, Ole Miss. Who do you believe in? Why?
This is our poll question right now on this live Sunday evening edition of the Eye on College Basketball podcast. So feel free to vote if you're chatting and following along in real time here. I'll update that poll before we get out of the show. You laid it out there. I'm just going to, I need to put in like 15 new drops on my board here, and I need an applause one, because you're a few weeks late, but you finally put James Madison in.
Hey, buddy, I know you've never been dumb enough to rank 26 basketball teams every morning, but I tell you, we are getting to the point where I'm like, you get to about 24 and you go, man, I don't know what else to do. I guess at some point I got to go with James Madison, because I don't know what else
default. To do. They are not default. How dare you? How dare you do that to
I actually had a gift from the basketball gods this morning. I needed a spot, and I said, okay, this is going to be perfect. I'll put Princeton in, and if Princeton wins on Sunday afternoon at St. Joe's, they'll be undefeated with a win over the St. Joe's team that beat Villanova and took Kentucky to overtime. And if they lose, I can just kick them right back out. So I had to kick them right back out because they lost. They let me down.
Fail horn. Although good on St. Joe's. We're going to get to the undefeated teams, but I will say good on St. Joe's right now. Princeton's now 9-1. Boo-hoo, it lost its first game in 6 tries on the road. St. Joe's is 8-2 and giving some credence to the A10. If that continues, obviously we'll highlight Joe's in that conference more on the show, but just got to prove it a bit more here as we wind toward the back end of non-conference season. To your question with the 3 teams specifically, I would lean. I would lean Clemson here, but they've all got a lot to write home about here. Oklahoma getting to 9-0 is something that nobody saw coming, other than us when we spotlighted Oklahoma by virtue of, as previously mentioned, a fan auction winning bid for our summer shoot-around series. And so at that time, Oklahoma was well positioned outside the projected top 50 in the sport. Look up now. Sitting at 19th at KenPom right now, still with some preseason projections baked into that, but at 9-0 and winning 79-70 over Arkansas over the weekend. Musk got ejected from that game, by the way. He was on fire, but Oklahoma had it the whole way through. And to this point, the defense has been outstanding. I would say, in watching, I've caught the Sooners play this season in the win against Iowa, the win against USC, the win earlier this week against Providence, where it was, a game early and then they just ran away from them. That was a game in Norman. And then the win against Arkansas here that was in Tulsa, I believe. Oklahoma is yet to play a road game, but it does have 3 wins on neutral courts against high major teams, all of which are of top 70-ish variety: Iowa, USC, and then Arkansas. Oklahoma will not play on the road this season until January 10 at TCU. So there is a chance. They've got UNC coming in 10 days. We'll see about that, but there is a chance they can make it as the last unbeaten team, GP. Javian McCollum has been a very efficient player so far this season. Milos Uzan was a player that I was pretty high on. He's actually underperformed versus my expectations overall, but they are a well built. And Musselman said this after the game, actually on Saturday. They play well in their roles. The staff has been scouting well. Oklahoma has done well for itself. But I would still, having said that, and knowing what Ole Miss needed to really squeak out a win, but regardless, they got the win on the road, and to remain undefeated, it's impressive nonetheless. Chris Beard's team to get to this point at 9-0 with a road win against UCF. There are a lot of positive signs there. Flanagan's been awesome, and we'll see if the likes of Musa Cisse, who's not playing a ton yet, GP, but he's been cleared to play, and then they got Jamarian Sharp, a 7'5" dude. They could come along. Clemson is my team that I buy the most in long term. It's the team that I was the highest on of the three going into the season, and it's the team that I think has the best player of anyone on any of those rosters. PJ Hall for sure. PJ Hall right now 4th in the KPOI Player of the Year algorithm, by the way, and like Joseph Girard, who came from Syracuse and was, I think he's the all-time scoring leader in high school basketball history in the state of New York. And then he had like a solid career at Syracuse. You could argue maybe in totality, he might have fallen short of what expectations were as a semi-local kid. But regardless, he was a guy that went into the portal and had a good stroke, and you hope that he can come on your campus and be a real additional piece. He has absolutely been that, playing alongside Chase Hunter, who I really like as a point guard there. I like what they have. Ian Shufflin showed up big over the weekend as well in getting the win over TCU in the Battle of the Unbeatens. So you went long to start. I go long to answer you. I would like Clemson the most, and I think that Clemson should be in that discussion right now as a team that can compete to win the ACC. You heard me correct. I'm not just saying this for effect on December 10th. Trust me, I'm not saying stuff about Clemson for effect, okay? I think that Clemson right now is sitting at the table with the likes of Duke, Virginia, North Carolina. Miami got rolled. I'll mention that in the whip around later, but Miami got rolled earlier on Sunday by Colorado. So there's really no argument against Clemson having as strong of a chance as any team right now to win the ACC.
I have Oklahoma ranked higher than Clemson and Ole Miss, but if I were answering my own question, which one do I believe in the most? I think the context matters. And I think just Clemson's got a much easier life in the ACC than Oklahoma's got in the Big 12, or Ole Miss has got in the SEC. Like, Ole Miss can be legitimately good and get eat up in the SEC. Oklahoma can be legitimately good and get eat up in the Big 12. In other words, the way all three of these teams are playing right now, if Clemson continues to play this way, they'll finish top 4 in the ACC. They just will. All right. If Oklahoma keeps playing at this level, like, you don't know what's good. This level could take you to 9th in the Big 12 or something even worse. And same thing for Ole Miss in the SEC. So I'll believe in Clemson more than the others, if only because Clemson, like, we're almost to conference play, and they play in the easier conference if we're ranking all three conferences. On Oklahoma, you mentioned they could be 13-0 heading into the Big 12. It's really just going to come down to that North Carolina game, or at least I should say it should probably only come down to that North Carolina game. So 13-0, 12-1 heading into the Big 12 is a likely scenario. So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What does it take then in the Big 12 to get into the inside? Like, if I tell you right now, you don't know anything more than this, okay, Oklahoma goes 9-9 in the Big 12.
It's in with that, if it does. By the way, Oklahoma's beating teams by 22 points on average right now. So there's a lot to believe in there. But if you tell me that OU still goes 9-9 in the Big 12 after the start, and even toss in a loss to UNC, that's definitely going to be enough to get into the tournament. And let's just say they win one game in the Big 12 tournament. That will be enough to get them in.
Okay. Let me say this. You're exactly right. It's plenty enough to get them in. I bet you the casuals, as they say, don't understand exactly how much of a guarantee it is to get in at 500.
That's almost certainly 9 quad 1 wins, and at worst, like 7 quad 1s and 2 quad 2s, by the way.
Okay, so this sets me up for a trivia time.
Okay, here we go.
What was the last year a team finished at least 500 in the Big 12 and did not make the NCAA tournament?
That's a great trivia. Dude, that's a wonderful trivia time.
Because this is great. You can just, as if you were an Oklahoma fan right now, you can say, if we do this, we're good. Because Because when was the last time somebody did this and wasn't
I
good?
mean, I couldn't. GP. I don't have the faintest idea if it's gonna be. If you're about to tell me that this happened in the past, I guess I might believe it in the COVID year. But I'm gonna blindly say it's been the #1 conference in 7 of the past 9 seasons, I think. So I'm going beyond that. I'll say a 500 team in the Big 12 not getting an invite to the dance. Give me 2010.
It's 2014.
Okay. Let me try and guess the team. 14, 500 in the Big 12. That's like 2 versions of the Big 12 ago. I'll just say it was Oklahoma State.
It was West Virginia. They went 9-9 in the Big 12 in 2014, finished 17-16 overall, missed the NCAA tournament. But quite literally every Big 12 team since then that has gone, at least take whatever happened in the non-league portion of their schedule, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but you get the point. If they then go 500 in the Big 12, they're in. And if you're an Oklahoma fan, that is the greatest thing about this start, is that it has set you up where we don't have to finish top 4 in the league or top 6 in the league. If we go 500 in our league, that is almost certainly going. In fact, in Oklahoma's case, it will definitely be good enough. So just tremendous stuff we did. Loyal listeners will know a bonus episode on Oklahoma in the preseason. We both acknowledged that we could envision them being good, but certainly it looked like a team that would finish in the bottom half of the Big 12. Still might, but they have overachieved, exceeded all reasonable expectations, off to a great start at OU. As for Clemson, 9-0, and I'll be quick on this. They got wins over Alabama, TCU, Pitt, South Carolina. That's 4 wins over top 55 KenPom teams. Not nothing. Up next, they're coming down here to Memphis next Saturday. KenPom has a projected score in that one. Memphis 76, Clemson 75. So the Tigers' perfect record could be no more. The Clemson Tigers' perfect record could be no more this time next week. Regardless, if you're Brad Brownell, you start your 14th year at Clemson on the hot seat and you win your first 9 games. You're now ranked in the top 15 and the top 25-1. Things are going really, really. Give him a contract extension already. What are we waiting on?
Seriously.
Get him a contract
extension.
His agent's
probably trying to get that done.
before it'd be a good time to get a contract extension.
It really
it'd be a terrific time.
Into that holiday spirit there.
Ole Miss, real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't wake up this morning thinking I would have them in the top 25-1, even if they won.
Yeah, you got to have them there.
Well, at some point, you just because the computer numbers are terrible still.
I know, but there's 7 unbeatens left. They're in a high major. I just think there's no case against it at this point with this defense.
And tell me this: they're 9-0 with a win over the Memphis team that then earlier today beat A&M on the road and also has wins over Michigan, Arkansas. I was probably going to put them in no matter what, but at this point, it becomes very, very easy. It's not just Ole Miss with bad computer numbers. Like Memphis could not go to Memphis with the A&M and won. Easy. Couldn't go to Ole Miss and win. And Ole Miss is 9-0. I'm just going to respect the 9-0 record with a win over Memphis and a road win over UCF, which as of right now in this moment would qualify as a quad 1 win.
I don't know if this is updated for today in the moment right now, but Ole Miss being 86 at Torvik, not accounting for projection. This is in season. Remove the preseason bias. 86, and they're low at KenPom too. Based on getting to this point, I would just, if they lose, then you bounce them out. They've got a game next weekend against a Cal team that almost pulled out a double OT squeaker against Butler. But the resume isn't great. But 2 road wins. I don't think there's a case against it. Where they should be in the AP rankings versus what computer models have them at. That's 2 different discussions, and right. I don't get too uppity over rankings. I do like when it comes to James Madison, and Princeton won't get it now because it lost, because it does mean something big for those programs. Sure. And I think it's important to highlight those kind of teams when they do that, considering all of the scheduling challenges, let alone everything else going against them. But whether like Ole Miss or not is ranked on Monday doesn't matter to me. But if I was a voter, I think when you consider that there's only 7 teams left without a loss and what they've done, a couple of road wins in that, I would put them in, especially the win over Memphis, even though it's home, that would be the clincher for me.
Yeah, there we go. So we're on the same page. I'll have them in the top 25 and 1. And here's the thing: you say they if they lose, you can get them out. Well, they might not lose for a minute. They play Cal, Troy, Southern Miss, Bryant. Those are the next 4. Could very reasonably be 13-0 when they play at Tennessee on January 6th.
Good stuff. There we go.
What a day to go to Tennessee. Can you now say January 6th without immediately thinking of January 6th? That's another one of those days that is now like 9/11, January 6th.
That will live in infamy. What do you want from me?
Yeah, it's just a day that immediately I just, like, if I'd have said January 7th, I wouldn't even have blinked. But I said January 6th, and I started thinking of Capitol stormers. Am I always going to be that way?
Probably so. As we get ready to go to break here, poll question in the live chat as we're about 16 minutes in. Which team are you buying stock in most long-term over the course of the season? The leading team is the team that I am behind. Clemson is winning at 46%. Oklahoma at 38% right now of the vote. Ole Miss a distant third, 16%. So Tigers winning that poll.